At james.crid.land, on the Radio Today podcast, and in your favourite podcast app, I'm James Cridland, the radio futurologist. This week, is it worth polishing and editing radio? Now, a few weeks ago, I wrote a piece called Live Radio is Lazy Radio, and in it I made the point that if we pre-record audio, we can edit it, polish it, and make it sound great. And I propose that when we don't bother editing or polishing and just produce mediocre live radio, then that's lazy. This, of course, goes against the common wisdom that great radio is live and local, and it needn't be. I've argued in the past that instead of the two L's, live and local, we should be focusing on the two R's, real and relevant. Naturally, though, the comments both on the piece itself and on social media where it was shared were quite hot. People argued that radio should be live because it's more exciting for the presenters, or that radio should be live because the audience like hearing mistakes. And I find both of those arguments are either a little self-serving or a bit self-indulgent. However, some commenters had actually read the article rather than the headline, and I was pointed towards a great video from Tim Lee, an Australian radio presenter, on how he uses automation to make tighter and better segues. So instead of lazily waiting for one song to fade and then starting another, perhaps mashing a sweeper over the top, Tim spends time in his automation software to edit and polish, so it sounds better. Have a listen.
Old school. Hit 92.9.
So there's how the song actually is, and then there's how I want it to sound in the car when someone's listening. I want it to sound like a mix show, like the main vocal comes straight in. Place the sweep to where you want it to actually play out on air. That is the downbeat, where we're going to bring the actual song back in. Save as your multi-track to a quick record. Now, we're just looking for the last beat of the song that we can bring the Backstreet's Back, alright, vocal in on. Now to find that downbeat so we can bring the, oh my god, we're back again, in at the right time. Alright, we've slaved away. Now let's listen to see how it's going to play out.
Old school. Hit 92.9.
Oh my god, we're back again.
So spending time to edit segues properly makes a pretty good difference, it turns out. It's hard to argue that live segues are ever going to be better than properly edited, polished ones. There's certainly less work. Tommy Faraz pointed me to an article he'd written in 2015, and in it he argues why radio needs to break linearity. It's a wonderfully precise phrase that does a much better job of saying what I mean. He says,
radio should be turning the fact that content doesn't need to be subordinated to live broadcasts anymore into a great opportunity to produce premium content for a more engaging radio. The sound production can be better finished, the editing can be clean and precise, the pace can be better adjusted, the guests better prepped, the hosts more effectively coached. The entire show could be even tested. Why are radio professionals still creating great content primarily for live radio?
And I enjoyed Tommy's piece. It's also certainly true that pre-producing audio in chunks has benefits for multi-platform use too, both in terms of personalization and shareability. Meanwhile, Peter Saxon, the editor of radioinfo.com.au, says that an element of pre-production can be helpful with a useful kitchen analogy.
No chef starts cooking everything from scratch when the order comes into the kitchen. Every ingredient for each dish on the menu that can be prepared in advance is, so that it can be quickly blended with the rest of the meal, thrown in the pan, and then served fresh, live and local.
Finally, I wasn't specifically talking about voice tracking, though some commenters assumed that I was. In particular, a number of people mailed to say that their contracts force them to do some voice-tracked shows on out-of-area stations for no additional money. And that's cynical from radio station management and communicates that voice-tracked shows are worthless. No wonder then that many voice-tracked shows sound like lazy nonsense. And of course, I'm not arguing for those. Live radio is still great, but pre-producing radio, segues, individual components, or even whole shows isn't cheating. Our audiences have access to so many great and beautifully produced pieces of audio. Polishing and editing our audio can do no harm. Or we could just be lazy and not bother. You can get my weekly newsletter at james.crid.land and daily podcast news at podnews.net. And until next time, keep listening.